Chicago child murderers. Teenagers Nathan Leopold and Richard Lubb cruised around a leafy section of Chicago on the idyllic spring afternoon of May 21, 1924, searching for a neighborhood boy to kill. The duo weren't motivated by vengeance, greed, or hate. They wanted to kill a child for the simple thrill of it, and to prove to themselves that people with superior intellects could get away with murder. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for future interesting videos. Leopold had difficulty making friends and was very appreciative that Lubb was a close friend, said Simon Bartz, author of For the Thrill of It, Leopold, Lubb, and the Murder That Shocked Chicago. The friendship developed into a sexual relationship, with Lubb the dominant partner, and he agreed to have sex with Leopold if he accompanied him on his acts of petty crime. Once shoplifting, vandalism, and fraternity house thefts lost their appeal, the prodigies sought stimulation in something more sensational: murder. Revealing the Smithsonian's Racial Brain Collection. More than 1,800 congressmen once enslaved black people. This is who they were, and how they shaped the nation. 7 months of plotting the perfect crime culminated with Leopold and Lubb circling Kenwood in their rented Willers Night automobile for 2 hours on that May afternoon. As the glorious sunshine that beckoned neighborhood boys to sandlot baseball games faded, so did the aspiring killers' hopes of finding a suitable victim, until they spotted their prey walking along Ellis Avenue. Offering a ride home, Lubb lured 14-year-old Bobby Franks, his second cousin and the son of a wealthy retired industrialist, into the car's front passenger seat. Most historians who have studied the case believe that while Leopold drove the car, Lubb grabbed the boy from behind and bludgeoned the back of his head with the blunt end of a chisel before jamming a rag down his throat and taping his mouth shut. With the boy's lifeless body sprawled across the rear floor, Leopold and Lubb drove until nightfall, even stopping for hot dogs and root beer across the Indiana state line. At dusk, they pulled into a deserted area southeast of Chicago, poured hydrochloric acid on the stripped corpse to prevent its identification, and stuffed it in a waterlogged culvert under a railroad embankment. Noted lawyer Clarence Darrow, Center, pleads the case of Nathan Leopold and Richard Lubb before Chief Justice John R. Caverly, on bench at left, in Chicago in 1924. AP. To misdirect police, Leopold called the boy's mother from a drugstore telephone and identified himself as a kidnapper named George Johnson. He assured the boy's mother that her son was safe and would be returned for a ransom of $10,000. A ransom note with further instructions arrived at the Franks' home the next morning. The letter's flawless English caused police to initially suspect teachers at the boys' prep school. It turned out, however, that Leopold and Lubb weren't the criminal masterminds they thought they were. Before the ransom could be paid, Bobby Franks' family learned of his death when a passerby discovered the boy's body the morning after the slaying. Found near the corpse was a pair of horned-rimmed eyeglasses with tortoiseshell frames and distinctive hinges whose sole Chicago distributor had sold just 3 pairs, one to a woman who still had hers, a second to a lawyer traveling abroad, and a third to Leopold, who had carelessly dropped them while moving the body. Leopold gave police a flimsy alibi that he and Lubb had been driving around Chicago in his family car the night of the killing and picked up 2 girls whose last names he didn't know. The Leopold family's chauffeur, however, told police the family car hadn't left the garage that night. Plus, Leopold's handwriting matched that on the ransom letter envelope, and the typewriter used for the note matched one Leopold used for legal notes. With evidence mounting, Leopold and Lubb separately confessed. However, each claimed to be the driver and said the other was the killer. The slaying was so shocking that newspapers declared it the crime of the century, with 76 years still to spare in the 1900s. Bartz said the case became a sensation because of the killer's wealth and social status, which ran counter to the then popular theory that crime was confined to the lower classes. The murderers went against the grain of popular belief in criminology, he said. The idea was that only the poor and working class people committed crimes, which was the basis behind eugenics. What also made the case so unusual was the remorseless response from Leopold and Lub. Far from expressing regret or contrition, they actually said if they had the opportunity, they would do it again, Barthes said. It is no crime to use a human being in the interest of scientific research, Leopold told a newspaper reporter. A thirst for knowledge is highly commendable, no matter what extreme pain and injury it may inflict upon others. A 6-year-old boy is justified in pulling the wings from a fly if by so doing he learns that without wings the fly is helpless. Their confessions left no doubt to the duo's guilt. The only question was whether they would be put to death. To save Leopold and Lub from the gallows, their parents hired the best defense attorney money could buy, Clarence Darrow, best known for his subsequent role in the Scopes Monkey trial. At the Rumpold lawyer's behest, the pair pleaded guilty, bypassing a trial by jury for a sentencing hearing before Judge John Caverly. Nathan Leopold, Center, who had served 28 years in prison for the 1924 killing of Bobby Franks, talks with Professor William Byron, left, a Northwestern University sociologist and criminologist, shortly before Leopold appeared before the parole board at Stateville Penitentiary in Joliet, Illinois, in 1953. Warden Joseph Reagan is at right. Ed Maloney, AP. A vociferous opponent of the death penalty, Darrow asked the judge to consider the teenagers' ages, guilty pleas, and mental conditions as mitigating factors. He introduced a psychiatric defense, telling the court that both teenagers had been abused by their governesses. Following Darrow's epic 12-hour closing argument, Caverly spared the defendants the death penalty and sentenced them to life in prison plus 99 years. Lub died in 1936 after being slashed in a prison shower by a razor-brandishing inmate. Leopold died in Puerto Rico in 1971 after being paroled 13 years earlier. But popular culture has kept the memory of Leopold and Lub alive for decades longer. The case has inspired plays, books, and movies, including Alfred Hitchcock's 1948 film adaptation of the play Rope, which recasts the killers as prep school graduates who slay a former classmate, and Maya Levin's 1956 best-selling novel, Compulsion. The depraved murder may have repulsed America, but it still can't look away. Christopher Klein, a freelance writer, is the author of 4 books, including When the Irish Invaded Canada, the incredible true story of the Civil War veterans who fought for Ireland's freedom. In October 1955, 3 Chicago boys were found murdered, their bodies naked and dumped in a ditch in Robinson Woods on the city's northwest side. A community and a nation were shocked. In a time when such crimes against children were rare, the public was transfixed as local television stations aired stark footage of the first hours of the investigation. Life and Newsweek magazines published exclusive stories the following week. When Kenneth Hansen was convicted and sentenced for the murders, the case was considered solved, until questions were raised about Hansen's presumed guilt. If you enjoyed from this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more content. Thanks for watching.